Well, good morning. Good to see everyone. Thank you for coming. It's 9:30, dreary weather. The bars were busy in Leeds last night, so it's great to have a nice audience this morning. I'm sure we'll have a few more people milling. Well, I see a few people milling outside, so I'm sure a few will join in a minute. Anyway, my name's Mike Hodges. On behalf of Christie Co, I'm delighted to be hosting this session on the hotel and leisure sector. It's one that we all know really well as consumers, but in terms of the built environment, it's absolutely crucial in terms of regeneration, creating communities, economic prosperity. In fact, REiiF itself would not be able to function without the sectors that we have represented on this stage. And I'm delighted to have such a stellar panel with me today, a really diverse range of businesses. So firstly, Jamie Christon, the CEO of Chester Zoo. Suzanne, who runs Radisson's business in the UK and Ireland. And Oliver, who comes all the way from Germany in his plane yesterday, and he actually flew it, which is quite a story, who runs a hostel and hotels business called A&O. So a really interesting and diverse bunch of businesses. And I'll warn you, if our panel briefing conversation is anything to go by, you're in for an insightful and engaging conversation this morning. So I'd like to start by asking each panelist just to give a brief introduction to themselves and also their business. So maybe if I can start with you, Jamie.
Yeah, morning everyone. So I'm Jamie, so I'm Chief Executive at Chester Zoo. For those who don't know us, we're the National Conservation Zoo. Last year welcomed 2.1 million visitors to the zoo, seen as probably, I think at the moment, third best zoo in the world. We are home to over 30,000 animals, 535 species, employ over 1,000 people, based up in, here, relatively close to Leeds, on the edge of Chester. We are Virgin Hoteliers. We opened a hotel last August, so hopefully I'll talk to you a little bit more about how we got on our story.
Thank you. Suzanne.
Okay, good morning. My name is Suzanne. I am the Managing Director for UK and Ireland for Radisson Hotel Group. I currently oversee 9 of our core brands in UK and Ireland, operating 59 hotels. That's around 12,000 keys. We have got 12 hotels currently in development stages. Once they're in operation by 2029, that will deliver another 2,000 keys. So I've been with the group for 5 years, in this role for 2, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Oliver?
Yeah, I'm Oliver from Berlin, as you said before. Thanks for having me here. I founded in 2000 A&O, so born in Berlin. I was 15 when the wall came down. I grew up behind the Iron Curtain. Why I'm saying this, because until I was 15, my traveling world was quite limited. Yeah, it was just the eastern part of the world, and from one day to the other. So I was a lucky guy with 15 years when the world was open to me, and from this moment I had this big desire and feeling to build something that makes for travelers the world more accessible and easy accessible and affordable, and that drove me to found A&O Hostels. I started with 164 beds, 1 room with private facilities, all the rest was with common showers. That changed totally. Today we're running 32,000 beds in 46 houses across Europe and in 10 different countries. More maybe later.
Well, thank you. I'd like to start then just by asking each panelist to give an overview of where they see the hotel industry now and how they see it evolving. And Suzanne, given the number of brands that you cover, maybe if we could start with you?
Yeah, I think from my experience in our portfolio within Radisson, we can really see a shift in the customer profiling, be it business or leisure. The markets are moving very much experience-driven. We are noting, we have so many ways of finding out what our guests want and what they feel and what they need through many channels and the use of technology. It's very evident that our guests are very much looking for that experience. I think given the current markets we're in now, our guests are experiencing less tolerance. Their expectations are high. They want that experience, but also the value for money. And running a business right now, especially in hospitality, with the cost of living and the cost of goods and the rateable values, I could go on, it becomes quite challenging. And our job is to really create an efficient model for our owners in operations, and we are good at that. We also have to have that local engagement, and that's where the difference comes with hotels. It's that local community engagement and having that flexibility to connect, because you're creating different revenue streams as well, not just those looking for a bed for the night, but a gateway for people to use in the local communities. We have really explored in our hotels, especially city centre properties, other revenue streams beyond just the bedroom. So looking at every space. COVID taught us a lot. We developed a lot, we invested a lot, and so from that side, we are doing well, but we have some way to go, because especially with that experience piece and the cost to deliver that. I also think there's a huge expectation now, and more of an expectation for sustainability. That's a big focus for us as part of our 5-year plan. We opened our first net zero hotel in Manchester last year. It's actually its birthday next week. And transparently, I can honestly say I have seen an increase in ADR, I have seen an increase in RevPAR, and our guest responses, especially for that question that we ask, has gone up by 26%. So that is something that's very, very important for Radisson. As part of our 5-year plan, we are opening 2 more net zero hotels in the next 12 months, and we have 2 more in build. But we plan by 2030 to have 100 hotels net zero. So for me, it's experience and sustainability is where I see the shift.
Fantastic. If I could maybe go to Jamie next, because not that long ago you didn't operate a hotel at all. You're a zoo and have decided to go into the hotel industry. How's it been for you? I mean, you've created an experience from scratch.
Yeah, share what Suzanne said, really. It's all about immersive experience. We had planning permission back in 2016 for a 150-bed rectangular block hotel, and we scrapped those plans. So we've now built a 51-lodge hotel where 16 of the lodges surround a giraffe, zebra, and blessbok paddock. So you can wake up in the morning if you're in one of those 16 rooms and open the curtains, and you've got Meru, who's our male breeding giraffe, and his son Stanley stood outside your window having their breakfast, 5 blessbok and some zebra. And the guests absolutely love it. Some of our rooms have got their own private giraffe feeding stations, so you can go with the keeper and feed the 2 giraffes. And during the summer, most of the autumn, the spring, if the weather's good, those animals will be outside all night. So, when we first opened the hotel, I was sat outside having a glass of wine at quite late at night, straight early in the morning, and the animals were still out. So, people are wanting those immersive experiences. They come to our zoo. We've got 13 kilometres of footpath. It's a big zoo. It's 130 acres. They have a busy day, and they come back to the peace and tranquility of the hotel. It's just on the side of the zoo. And have a great night. We then we bring our zoo rangers down to the hotel at night, and the guests can go back into the zoo at night and see all our nocturnal species, and then we give them private access to the zoo first thing in the morning as well. So they get that USP that they just wouldn't do, even if they were a normal guest in the zoo. And they love that, but they also want value for money. If they only see 1 giraffe rather than 2, sometimes we get a complaint. But they're wanting more and more and more. But we're seeing it really working for us. May so far, I think we're just over 80% occupancy, which is what we want to be, where our target is. But we're learning. It's not easy being a hotelier, as we found out. But it's a great experience. And if this works, then we will try and roll out other hotels around other zoos in the UK or into Europe, really. So, it's good fun.
And Oliver, your perspective, a completely different business model to these other 2 businesses. And obviously you're coming into the UK market now as well. Fascinating to get your perspective, because you're dealing with a younger client group primarily, I think. What does that client group want, and how do you see that evolving moving forward?
Yeah, that's true. So the bulk or the average age of our customers is between 16 and 35, so quite young. 50% of our business we do with educational business. That means school groups, sport groups, etc. and this business is really stable and even evolving. This business gives us a good visibility over the entire year, so it's very long time booked in advance. So in the beginning of a year, on the 1st of January, for example, we have 45% of our business, of our overnights on the books. So this is something even investors like really with our business. The individual business is FIT business. That's a little bit different. That's something we try really to even to strengthen or to build. That's why we started to invest even a lot more into our look and feel and brand consistency over the last, I would say now 10 years. We started with this investment and to be more attractive even for individual travelers, what works. What we just spoke short about this. So what we really see as a current trend is that people starting, the individual travelers starting again to book more in advance. So that's a big shift. There was a trend the last 2 years that the majority of the individual travelers booked 48 hours before arrival or shorter. And now we see that more than 50% book more than 30 days in advance. So that's a big shift. We see much more solo travelers. That's even in development since a few years now. That I think that comes with, it's more safe today to travel. Yeah, it's easier to be connected with other people, with social media, etc. People have stronger networks or across over the countries. So even female travelers are keen and brave to travel alone. And so solo traveling is something we still learning what are the needs and to build this. And of course the digital nomads is something we have since many years, the workations, so to say.
I think it'll be interesting. We're all probably familiar with the zoo and we're familiar with Suzanne's brands, but what does a typical hotel for you look like, Oliver, in terms of size? What would you experience if you go into it?
And I know you mean?
Yeah.
So we operating quite big boxes. Yeah. So the average size is 800 beds. We need this size, the scale to bring costs down because cost matters for us. Yeah, that's something that's in our DNA. So every euro, it sounds quite simple. Every euro or every pound, we don't spend. We don't have to charge to the customer. That's as simple as it is, and that's what is driving us to keep costs down. So we always say we are more in the engine room than on the zoo terrace. So that's to manage costs and really consider always that is something we like to develop, something we like to introduce. Is this really a need of the customer? Is this something where the customer is willing to pay a bit more? Or otherwise we really keep it, yeah, and don't do it. But if it comes, for example, to automation, that's quite often helpful. Sustainability, it's a very interesting thing, and I like what you're doing here. This is, for example, learning we made over the last 10 years since we also following very honestly this sustainability trend or track that to act and operate more sustainable not means that you have to pay a premium. Yeah, quite often it means you can even save cost, at least on a long term. Yeah, if you modernize your heating system or you change to LED lighting or whatever, that saves cost. Yeah, and saves the environment.
Suzanne, I think you had a point there.
Yeah, I was actually reading last week on Booking.com did a survey, and out of those that they surveyed, 75% of those travelers said that they were looking for a more sustainable stay within the next 12 months. That's an incredible stat.
Yeah, what we learned as well, but people don't like to pay extra for it.
That's the point. Yeah, that was going to miss that bit out.
we tried many things, even a euro more to plant a tree or whatever, so nobody's doing this.
But, and that was my perception too, but from when I look at Manchester, I was surprised to see the ADR uplift, that people were paying that little bit more.
That's impressive.
And that's, that's going to be the roadmap to roll out.
Yeah. So, Suzanne, just picking up on those points, across the different brands that you cover, what do you see as the main changes in consumer expectations across the different types of people that would check into your hotel? So business travelers, younger people, staycation, overseas. Are there any consistent themes that come out?
Yeah, like I said, it's the experience they want for the value for money. And given the trading conditions of today, that's often quite difficult. Now, the beauty that we can give our owners is that because globally we have 1,600 hotels, could be 1,700 by tomorrow at the way we're opening, but we have a power in purchasing which can support the operating models. But again, it's shifted away from just the room. You know, F&B is very difficult to trade, so we have had to now really, I guess, invest in our public spaces, and we've been very good at that. And what I mean by that is, we have opened up those areas where, you know, people can come and hybrid work. All our hotels have got gyms. Every hotel, it's a brand standard, you have to have a gym. So what we've done now is we've built a package where you can go from the local, your local area, you can go to a hotel, you can go to the gym first thing in the morning, you get breakfast in the package, you get lunch in the package, you get Wi-Fi, you get that network, you get the connection. And that's been a really good move for us. We've also looked at ways of revenue streams throughout the entire business for all those touch points for that changing customer journey, from car park to, we've put a lot of smart stores as well for convenience in our hotels, really good ones. They look great, they're associated with the brand. Again, it's another stream. So that's, when we look at, like you say, the lone traveller who doesn't want to go out, those smart stores really tick a box. When we look at those that want to come on hybrid work, we tick a box. When we look at those that want us to come and have social space, we've created those spaces. Our design models for hotels are changing because we have to create adaptable spaces that we can move with trends. What we don't want to do is put something in place that might be a short-lived trend, and then it's for that investment. So we're very adaptable, and that's a lot in our piece now moving forward.
Jamie, I'd like to bring you in terms of your experience as a new hotelier. What have been the biggest sort of challenges and learnings that you've experienced in opening a fantastic facility that you've developed?
Probably the biggest one is the whole model's different to a normal hotel. So our guests will check in at the same time as everyone else is checking out. So our zoo opens at 10 o'clock in the morning. So everyone's checking in at 10 o'clock in the morning when everyone's checking out. So if you've got 200 people trying to move out at the same time as people move in, it can be quite difficult. So what we did is we built what we call the orientation lodge. So when you arrive at the hotel, you have your car taken away, valet parked, you have your bags taken off you, and you orientate depending on the time of day you arrive. So most people will arrive at 10 o'clock. They will then get shown through a private entrance straight into the zoo, and off they go. In the meantime, their bags will be taken to their rooms, which allows us to make sure that we don't have the amount of people trying to get into the hotel at the same time as getting out of the hotel. That was probably the first learning, but we did thankfully we picked up on that before we actually opened and made sure that we had the flow exactly right. We also found very much that, as you'd expect, very much a family market over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, and then we're developing our corporate business during the middle of the week, and we built a large 250-seat conference centre in the middle of the zoo, so we can give that whole wraparound service that people can come. I have a conference in the middle of the zoo in a beautiful Grade 2 listed stable building, and during the middle of the day they can get out into the zoo in the afternoon and enjoy that with their teams, and then go and stay in the hotel at night, and we can transport them across to the hotel, back into the zoo, wherever they want to do, and we can create bespoke packages for them. So basically, we have an alcohol license in the zoo until 1 o'clock in the morning. It's a fenced 130-acre site, so once you're inside, to that corporate market, they absolutely love it because they have the whole zoo for themselves for the entire night, and they have our ranger team on hand. They can do not necessarily do what they want, but they can being chaperoned. Yeah, but they can go on tours around the zoo. They can see things that other people can't see. They can see the zoo at night. They can see the zoo first thing in the morning, and they can stay in a fantastic hotel. So we're constantly learning and constantly adapting. As Suzanne said, F&B extremely important. We now open the hotel to non-hotel guests during lunchtime because all our guests are in the zoo at lunchtime, so we have an empty hotel. So we're now bringing people in from the city centre to come and eat during lunch and afternoon teas and those sorts of things. So constantly adapting. Sustainability, as you expect, we're an environmental organisation, so if we didn't have a sustainable zoo hotel, then I think we might have been targeted, but we made sure very much from the offset that it is extremely sustainable space. We were going to have gas in there. We're taking it all off gas. It's all air source heat pump. We've got PV panels on every single lodge, and we've got the ability to expand. We've got ponds, we've got wildlife in and around that particular area. And what we're going to do, because it sits within the perimeter fence of the zoo, over time we will bring some animal habitats down there. So we'll probably build some bird aviaries in there over the next few years. So, so you wake up in the morning hearing lovebirds, for example, and or seeing other particular animals in and around around the space. So we will adapt it, but we built it with that in mind, that we can continue to add to it, to invest in it, to be able to make it slightly different and have that evolving product so people keep coming back time and time again and seeing things that are different.
I'd like to talk now about operating challenges, because you're balancing so many things: consumer expectations, workforce is obviously a key thing. I'd like to touch on workforce because I think that's a really important topic, but also the impact of technology and how you're using technology to try and help with automation and improve customer experiences. And maybe, Oliver, if I could start with you, because you're obviously a low price point model, so operating efficiencies are really important. How do you manage your staff team? Have you found recruitment easily? How do you use technology, and how far can you go with technology before customers say, actually, no, I want to talk to an individual?
That's a good question. So after pandemic, the biggest challenge was the good news after pandemic was that the guests bounced back faster and quicker than our staff came back. Yeah, and then since this pandemic time, it was always challenging because hospitality lost attraction as an employee. But how did we manage this with the staff? In general, we are super lean, but we also in the future we think we have to be always staffed 24 hours. So our aim is not to work without staff. That's why we have minors in the house. We have too many people in the house, so always we need staff to take care. But we like to automate, so to say, let's say the boring stuff. Yeah. So whatever is back of house should be automated. What is physically hard body work should be automated as much as possible, like cleaning, for example, whatever. We started with cleaning robots to help to do all the hallways, for example, stuff like this. What we see, we have this, you could say the digital natives are our clients, our customers, so you could expect that maybe we could really try early stuff and that the acceptance is much higher. What we had to learn is even, for example, if it comes to the check-in process, we need, for example, all this kiosks, like McDonald's is a good example. Yeah, we all could order the McDonald's stuff via an app or via our mobile device, go in, grab it, and go. Nobody's doing this. Everyone comes, and then in every McDonald's, I think in the UK it's the same. You have a forest of kiosks in front of you, and a hidden stuffed counter, so to say. And so you use this kiosk instead of your mobile device. Why ever? Don't ask me why it is like this, but it seems we had the same learning. So we've been very proud years ago when we rolled out our mobile check-in, even to make your mobile device to your key card. Nobody is using it. So people prefer to go to a kiosk. They prefer to go to a stuffed counter. So you have to hide the stuffed counter like McDonald's is doing it. Mm-hmm. And then put your kiosk in front of it, and then you can move, so to say, or steer the customers that 90%, so to say, go to the kiosk. The acceptance is much higher if you stuff the kiosk. So if you place a person, a helper, assistant near to this kiosk, and then you have a much higher acceptance. Another thing, what we in general did with our staff, and that helped dramatically to that we have no issues anymore to fill all the shifts, is that we get rid of the domestic language. So there is no demand anymore in Czech Republic to speak Czech, or in Germany to speak German. We always allow English or whatever. So broken English, that's fine. And so our customers are more generous, so they will not complain if they check in, let's say in Berlin, and there's at the Berlin counter, there's no person speaking German. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. We can do this. I think that's much more harder than a 4-star or 5-star product, but we can do this. And by getting or easing free up with this language barrier, so to say, it's no issue anymore to staff all the shifts.
Suzanne, over to you, and I know you've got a view on apprenticeships as well, so maybe if you could touch on that, if I don't open a can of worms.
Yeah, it's kind of. Now, well, again, like yourself, we invest heavily in technology to create those operational efficiencies. We will never replace hospitality, but we do use it to allow our front-facing staff to be more engaged with that customer, have more time with that customer, be it for the welcome or be it for service recovery. Or be it for those memorable moments that we want to create. We also, I don't know if you're familiar now with what Booking.com have come out with, you can literally go on to a platform now and just type in, I want a hotel in this location, I want this feature, I want to have a room facing this way, and I want to make sure it's kid-friendly. It must score 8.5, and that comes up with the hotels that meet that criteria. So now our technology focus is very much on our brand web and our e-commerce to really ensure that we have all those touch points, highlighted for when we have those searches and around that customer experience to make sure that we do show up when people search either Google or Booking.com. Where we do use technology is to create the operational efficiencies, especially in the climate we're working in at the minute, to ensure for our investors, our owners, and our hotel operators that we are successful and we are returning as what we promised. With that, and having just gone through it with I have a 17-year-old son, and it's widely publicized, 16 to 18-year-olds are finding it challenging to get into work. Now, I'm a product of getting into hotel at 16. Didn't know what I wanted to do, was able to work my way up through sales, through finance, I started in housekeeping. Those entry-level positions are challenging now in the volume that we used to have because of the cost to operate, the cost to train. And that's my frustration, I think, at the minute, because I think we're missing a real trick in our field, in that if we could open up that gateway again, it would get people working. But I understand it's difficult because the cost is so high. And I'm hoping it will evolve. Radisson are making big strides into talent mapping and talent recruiting, and we are looking at that younger generation again to get them into work and working with the communities. I'll use Sheffield as an example. We opened a hotel there 2 years ago with Sheffield City Council. Beautiful hotel, fantastic location right in the city centre, but we made a commitment that we would work with the community to get the community working again and into trades, and that's been really successful at that hotel. So again, another blueprint.
Jamie, bringing you in on this point.
Yeah, in terms of workforce, one of the beauties of Chester Zoo is that we operate everything ourselves. So we've got 400 people working in F&B within Chester Zoo Enterprises Limited, which is the operation, the food and beverage operation, the actual zoo itself. All the staff that work in the hotel work for Chester Zoo Hotels Limited. But if we have issues with staffing, recruitment within the hotel, then I can immediately move, literally within 10 minutes, staff across from enterprises into hotel and vice versa. Procurement is all done by one single team across the zoo and the hotel. So we're making things much more efficient by having single procurement, by having multi-skilled staff across all areas that can move from one side to the other. All the landscaping in the hotel is all done by our garden and plant team. We've got 35 gardeners within the zoo that look after all our grounds and the 5 national collections of plants that we have at Chester Zoo, but they can immediately move across there. Our housekeeping teams, they can move from one side to the other. Our conference and events teams can move around. So it makes things so much easier. If we have recruitment issues, if we've got last-minute workforce issues, we can immediately, within 10 minutes, suddenly get 10 staff from the zoo to move across into the hotel and do breakfast service, then move back into... and then they move back. It is recruitment's not easy, but the other really key thing is it's a beautiful place to work. You can go out and you can see animals, you can see nature, you connect with what's going on in the zoo, and we found recruiting for the hotel team really actually quite easy because we're one family and they can enjoy the same privileges and perks and ability to be able to go into that beautiful space than they would do if they were in any other hotel. So it's been pretty easy, but that flexibility, really does help us.
Perfect. I'd like to move on now. Obviously, hospitality, leisure is important for placemaking and creating economic impact. I want to talk about how easy it's been for you and your own businesses to actually deliver the developments and that process, because we hear about planning challenges, regulation, all kinds of build costs and so forth. Maybe I'll start with you, because you're building big schemes. I know you've got major developments opening, I think London and in the north. How's it been for you sort of coming into the UK?
It's a bit too early to tell you how the entire process will end, so to say, or because we just started with a preliminary permit process, etc. What we're doing and how we entered the UK market was by taking over existing hotels. In London, for example, we took over the London Docklands from Hilton. That was a DoubleTree before. A big, huge asset with 500 keys in total. Our plan is what we always do if we come to reuse our existing hotel. We have these glasses on like where's I say a very simple sentence. So where's a window, there has to be a bed. Yeah, and so what we find in this, let's say, struggling, distressed, a little bit outdated hotels. That was the same story in Manchester, by the way. That was the same story in Edinburgh and Brussels, etc. So a lot of takeovers of existing distressed, I would not say dismanaged, but distressed hotels, needing capex since 20 years, yeah, at least. They are struggling. For example, they have too much seminar areas, too much convention areas. That's something what we close from day one. Yeah, our revenue, 85% of our revenues comes from accommodation revenue, and that's how we see a building. Yeah, we like to create beds, we like to hire the bed density in a building, and this is something. Then we start from day one with the existing layout and shape. We use it, we close just what we don't need, and then we start with this permitting process to ask for higher the bed density. Yeah, and in Docklands, the biggest challenge, but that would be the same in every other country as well. Yeah? The biggest challenge is heritage. Yeah? We have one building, that's the Columbia Wharf building. That's, as far as I know, more than 300 years old. And of course, this, I don't expect that we will have any license or permit to change something before end of this year, for example. But that's same in other countries as well.
And Jamie, building a hotel in the middle of the zoo with all the countryside, was it embraced? How did people react when you first, or the plans were first announced?
Yeah, I mean, the zoo sits in the Greenbelt. So although the actual zoo is 130 acres, we own another 600 acres around the site, and the hotel was actually built on some of that land. So bringing the local authority along with us from day one was extremely important to us. So getting the planning committee to come out to the zoo and to be able to see what we were looking at doing and planning and what the development was all about, and then making sure that we worked with the planning teams on ecology surveys. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that particular part of Cheshire has the greatest proportion of great crested newts anywhere in the UK. And being an environmental organisation, we needed to make sure that our I's were dotted and T's were crossed, and we did exactly what we should do as an environmental organisation and as a developer. So it was pretty tough, but working with the local authority was key to it, both councillors and officers, and making sure that we took them all the way through the entire process. And we've had that relationship with our local authority, Cheshire West and Chester Council, for a good period of time. They see us as a major asset for Cheshire in the north, but we're very careful that we work with them all the way through. I mean, the whole process took 2 or 3 years to be able to get from start to finish, and yet we did to get frustrated at times with the planning system and the planning process. The lack of planning officers within the particular council, as is the same in nearly all councils within the UK, was particularly difficult. But they saw the benefit of the hotel. They saw the benefit to the community. They saw the benefit to Chester and the evening economy in Chester. So it did work. And we got, again, we're surrounded by residential, so we're out there really quickly talking to local residents about what the hotel was about and making sure that we dealt with their concerns from day one, brought them through the process, took them down to the hotel, to the site, we continue to work with local residents after the hotel's built, as we do with the zoo as well, to make sure that we're answering all their questions.
Excellent. So I'll ask Suzanne just to finish on this point, and then we'll open up for questions. But I'd like you also just to think about the contrast between sort of UK and Ireland, just different perspectives of different geographies.
Yeah, well, Ireland's booming. Ireland's a different, from all brands, Ireland is booming. I think Whitbread are putting in 5,000 rooms. We're putting in rooms. Hilton are growing in there as well. So Ireland is a different matrix. We've got 2 in development stage in Ireland, 10 in the UK currently. I have not seen any change in trend and demand, but I have seen several projects being delayed for either planning or construction. What Radisson have seen is a gap in that because we're in this business to expand. We've just recently launched a Radisson individual brand, which allows a hotel, especially this is very popular in Ireland, to be its authentic self, to have its own look and feel that's guided by standards, but it's not demanded. So the Radisson individual brand means that we can give hoteliers, small operators, or whatever, the global distribution, the global presence. We can give them our booking channels and our global sales support, and that's really taking off. We have opened up. I'm actually opening up one in Cambridge on Tuesday of next week, and there's 3 more following that before the end of July.
Excellent. Well, that's been a whistle-stop tour. We've got 10 minutes left, and I'm sure there'll be questions in the audience. So over to the audience, really, for any questions that you'd like to ask the panel. There is a roving mic, I think, circulating. Who wants to be brave and go first? There's a gentleman at the front.
Thanks very much. Excellent panel. Just to pick up on what you said, Suzanne, and if I address it to you, Oliver, in terms of linking into global distribution systems and trying to save money on Booking.com and third party, how do you get around that as A&O and as an independent provider of accommodation?
That's the same question the shareholders asking me almost recently. To be honest, we see that Booking.com becomes stronger and stronger. Yeah, and what I learned from my CMO, he told me that first time ever the booking search started more on the OTAs than on Google. Yeah, that is a behavior change globally. So we learned to start our search on travel on Google or on another search engine. This happened today on OTAs, what means Booking.com mainly. Yeah, and we see Booking.com is growing. There's a reason why Booking.com is advertising on the final game on the Europe or World Championship, etc. Why they can afford it. So they have a strong machine. They built something very convenient, very easy to use. So so for us, the question is really how to strengthen, for example, brand.com. Yeah, what for us is still an important channel. So until 24, it was 50-50. So 50% we received our bookings. We received direct. Direct means mainly Booking.com, brand.com, so Hostels.com or other direct channels like phone or, mainly phone then is the other alternative. And today it's more 40-60. Yeah, so and we still searching, so to say, for the right answer. What we of course doing since many months is really to focus to the AI, and looking that we are visible, very well visible to ChatGPT and Claude, etc. And that's still learning and seeing how the customers behave and start maybe a search there. That's, for example, a reason why my CMO is booking me every week at least one podcast, and then I always asking what is the outcome of this podcast, how many listeners, and he's telling me that 8,000, and I said, why I'm doing this? Yeah, we need 30,000 overnights per day. Why I'm doing a podcast with 8,000 listeners, and then he's telling me that's feeding the AI. Yeah, so that's the reason. So we try everything to build other channels up. But to be honest, Booking.com is strong and is becoming stronger right now.
Thank you. Any more questions? Gentleman at the front.
Jamie, I'd like to ask you about, you mentioned your plans for future growth. I just wondered how evolved they are and how that might impact because of the business model. Because at the moment you're fully vertically integrated, you own everything, you're doing everything, you've got complete control. Whereas you're switching to kind of like a Radisson model perhaps with a management contract or maybe even franchising. I just wondered how far you are in those plans.
Yeah, we what I didn't say, we do actually use a management company for the hotel in Chester at the moment. It is a bit of a hybrid contract that we have with them, and it may evolve differently over time as we get the hotel settled. So, you know, what we were really keen when we first opened the hotel, we're not hoteliers, we've never done this sort of thing before. We didn't have anyone within our team who had a hotel background, so we're working with a company that do operate for us, but all the staff work for Chester Zoo Hotels Limited. If we do evolve the model in the future, it may be that we use this company to move with us. It may be that we decide that we're big and brave and we can actually do it ourselves and we bring it back in-house, or we may look to speak to another partner in the future. You know, and we purposely set up the organisation Chester Zoo Hotels Limited with an S on the end because we wanted to see if this worked for us. One of the big learnings from COVID for us as a zoo is at that particular point, 97% of our income came from people coming in through the gates and as admissions into the zoo and paying for F&B and retail and other experiences in the zoo. We recognised the fact that we couldn't continue to do that. So we're diversifying the land around the zoo to be able to bring in new business. And that may be new business within the Chester area or maybe new business elsewhere as we grow and operate. You know, as the biggest zoo in the UK, we recognise the fact that we've got expertise within the zoo that we can go and do other things and help and support other organisations, be them zoos or other organisations in the hospitality and tourist industry around the UK and around Europe. So, you know, it's early days for us at the present time, but we've got a number of levers that we can pull and a number of different directions we can go to if we want to evolve the model.
Great, thank you. I think we've got time for one, maybe two more questions. Anyone else?
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the panel. We've got sort of two people who are looking very much sort of immersive and you know, talked about, Suzanne, other revenue streams, and Oliver, you're very driven on room and value. Do you see that as a trend continuing, that we're getting a divergence where we've got sort of the aspirational sector, the perhaps the old 5-star model, and then very much sort of the value-driven, affordable model, and where does that leave in the future hotel operators that might be crossing both?
Suzanne?
I think yes and no. We are very conscious now. Yes, we see that people want that immersive experience, but don't sometimes want to pay the fee to create that immersive experience. It's being creative. What we are very, I guess, focused on at the minute is creating adaptable spaces so that we can adapt our properties, we can adapt our models. So if we're opening a hotel for an owner, you know, it's not so rigid. We've got chance to change, and it's also, we find by looping in with the local community a lot more as well, and where those hotels, having that flexibility of where those hotels are. To give you an example, I go back to Sheffield. Sheffield, fantastic historic building, but a Radisson Blue is quite a set brand. Now, when we've gone into that property, you can tell it's a Blue, but you can tell the entire history of Sheffield, of Yorkshire, of that building within the first 10 minutes of being immersed there. And that creates something that shows resilience, and I think we can adapt a lot more as well. The biggest challenge I find in some of my brands is when we are, you know, the rates, people come for more than just a room nowadays, and it's creating that walk through that customer journey. And it's trying to ensure that, you know, we know that people are only going to pay a certain amount, and it's being creative to create those experiences within that price band. But it's ever evolving, you know, it's ever evolving. And again, the reason a customer comes and stays at a property is ever changing as well. You know, it could be for an event, or it could be for something in the hotel, outside the hotel, so that model changes again whenever, like you said, you could have 100 people in for an event, they all leave to go to a function space, and then you've got an empty hotel. You have to be creative to what you can do with that as well. And I think that's how we're managing. Does that answer your question? Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Any one final question, and then I think we will.
Kind of more traditional models are, a zoo, a very different model in itself, and then a lower cost model, and the staffing requirements that go with that. So how do you find that flows through into customer complaints and things like that? Because I know some operators in the low or no staff models struggle with that, and that then feeding AI, as you say, and reviews, people getting frustrated when they haven't got somebody to physically speak to.
Oliver, do you want to pick up first?
Yeah, it's also a very, very, very good question. I think one thing is to set up the right expectations and to the customer, and even from our side. So, for example, we never will reach with our product in above 8.0 or 8.5 on Booking.com customer review. Yeah, so that's not our goal. So, but we of course have the own ambitions. Not to fall, for example, below 7. Yeah, so that's something where other companies, I would guess you would be not happy with a 7.5 or 7.4 Booking.com review. We are absolutely fine with it, because then we are in a range where we know, okay, that's balance out what we spend for customer, let's say, satisfaction, and our P&L looks is on the best leaning point, so to say. Yeah. So if it falls below 7, even we struggle to get bookings. Yeah, and we receive too much complaints. If it becomes over 8, we overspending, for example, and then we see it immediately in our P&L. Yeah.
And I think if you look at Booking.com now, they've changed their matrix about how they track guest comments. So most recent review, they used to fall off, and you were able to build your score up again. You can't do that now within 6 months. It's quite difficult. So for us and our brands, yes, we expect and we KPI all of our teams and our that's through our training and an HR process and talent reviews and our GMs, that they have to maintain at least 8.5 on Booking.com. And that goes back as well, like you say, the AI algorithm. When you're looking for a 4- and 5-star hotel, so it has a complete knock-on effect. But it can be challenging, especially in certain hotels. We experienced a lot last year with a lot of the riots outside many of our hotels, and the disturbance that took place, and the safety and security on that. And although it had nothing to do with the hotels, that perception was still there. And that's something we can't control, but we get involved in. And that was quite alarming last summer. That was quite scary.
And Jamie, maybe a final word for you, and also just plug the new arrival at the zoo last night for everyone's interest.
Yeah, we you may have seen it in the news today. We had a baby aardvark born. She's called Womble, and we went live last night, and we had a million views overnight, and I think it's in most of the UK press today. So beautifully timed ahead of the bank holiday weekend, where the weather is going to be a lot better than it is today. So we're expecting temperatures in the mid-20s, and probably expecting 15, 16, 17,000 visitors in the zoo every day over the next week or so. And we've got Steve Backshall coming. He's doing 9 shows at the zoo next week, so hopefully it'll be a total sellout.
Well, I think the zoos are now all on our bucket list, but I'd like to thank you all for coming to be our audience this morning. I'd like to thank the panel for a fantastic conversation. Have a good day, everyone.